Hello friends, it is Scarlett of Scarlet Stitch Studios here with a crochet cosplay tutorial. This is a ruffle cuff I made for my Harley Quinn cosplay, one of a few that I have done. And we're going to start with a half double crochet rectangle, and I'm just going to single crochet the ends together. I like to single crochet stuff when seams don't really matter, and you'll see in a second that for the purpose of this it doesn't matter that there's this single crochet seam. You could of course do something seamless like a mattress stitch if you wanted to, but it won't matter for this. I also already cut this length of yarn because I had this cuff prepared, and I would just continue working with the yarn instead of cut it in the future. And here is me adding another length of yarn. But you can see that for this, I actually am going to do a row of double crochet, and as I do that double crochet row, I am going to just crochet around those lengths, so those are two ends that I won't have to weave in at the end of the project. And for double crochet, I did start the row off with a chain of 2. You could do a chain of 2 or 3 depending on your tension. I find for myself that a chain of 2 works just fine. And we're going to double crochet across that row that we created when we single crocheted together. I'm just going to trim those ends and look beautiful, no ends that I will have to weave in later. Alright, so we have our first start of this ruffle pattern. The ruffle will be going up and down these rows. For this, it's important to see where the rows of the stitches are and the in between the rows. That first stitch that I make is actually in between the rows of the stitches, and now I'm going to go into the first stitch row that I've done. So I'm going around that half double crochet stitch. My hook is going underneath and around as I yarn over, and I'm doing a double crochet for the entirety of all of these ruffles. You could do half double crochet if you wanted to. I chose double crochet because I only wanted to do 2 rows. I wanted to work these up fairly quickly, and I feel like that's what worked for me. So I'm just going around the row, and then as I get to the end of the row, I'm going to be looking to add another stitch as I continue the ruffle and have it move a little bit more seamlessly. So I will be doing that in that little in-between area where the stitches go into the, stitched part of the row instead of the posts, which is another way to refer to this, crocheting around the post of a stitch. So you can go front post or back post if you are looking up this stitch. I would consider this front post crochet since I'm going around and stitching out of the front of it. You wouldn't be able to do the back since this is a cuff and you're working in the round. So we're going to continue this back and forth pattern, making these ruffles, going around and making sure to add that stitch in between the rows so that we have a nice flowing ruffle pattern. We're going to continue this all the way around until we get to the start of our ruffles. If you're like me, I actually had an odd number of rows or an even number of rows, so I had to go back a couple stitches so that I would connect to the front of my ruffle. And yeah, I'm just going to do a slip stitch here, and then I'm going to chain 2 like I did to start my last double crochet row, and we are going to be double crocheting into all of the stitches that we made before. Now, to add to the ruffles, every time I get to the bottom stitch, or that stitch that we made in between each row, I will be doing 2 double crochet into that stitch. That double crochet is our double crochet increase. I think the increase for me just adds a little bit more movement to it, and it just adds more ruffle. When you increase in the same spot in the ruffle, that's how you get these really shaped ruffles. And yeah, so we're just gonna do the same pattern again, where we do the double crochet increase at the center of the ruffles in between each row. And then we're gonna continue that all the way around until we get to the end of our ruffle, just continuing that pattern. See, it's not too hard. It is something to get used to, crocheting outside of the posts instead of the stitches of crochet, but when you do surface crochet like this, I find that it can add a lot of really nice structure to crochet garments, which is something that I find very helpful for crochet cosplays, which are things that tend to be a little bit more larger than life anyway. And each of these cuffs only took about a half hour to stitch up. I think it's a really good, easy project, especially if you're looking to crochet accessories for a cosplay. You may be like me and crocheting the entire costume, or maybe you want to get your toes wet with crochet cosplay and start out the same way that I did, where I just worked on accessories and eventually worked my way up to full garments. I also think these are very comfy and cozy, and I hope this was helpful to you. So I got to the end of the row. You can see that I have 2 rows of these double crochet ruffles coming out of the cuff, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch to connect it here, and then I'm going to cut my yarn and I'm going to weave in that end. And it's really as simple as that. So here is me weaving in that end. I'm not getting too fancy with it. It's not something that needs to be particularly fancy. I don't know. Some people are really dedicated and detailed with the way that they weave in ends, and I think it really just depends on the project for me. I wasn't too worried about this one slipping out. So yeah. Also, you'll notice that I am wearing a compression glove in this video. That is to help reduce pain as I crochet. And here is the ruffle, and it just slides on, and it is all done. I'm very excited to wear this with the Harley Quinn look that I put together, and I hope you enjoyed this video.